Hi, I'm April. I'm a singer-songwriter and music teacher, and I recently got to sit down and have a lovely conversation with Gabe from Songcraft.io, which is a really cool platform for songwriters, and I totally recommend that you check it out. I will leave a link in the description so that you can see what it's all about. And in the meantime, feel free to ask us any questions you've got in the comment section below.
Hi.
Hi, welcome to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about Songcraft. So how about you just let everyone in on what Songcraft actually is?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on the channel. I'm excited to
Of
talk
course.
about it and excited to talk with you. Songcraft is a relatively new collaborative platform for songwriters and musicians to write and manage and share their songs. It's all online, so you can access your songs from any device. And you can imagine a sort of real-time editor like Google Docs, but it's got built-in support for chords and audio and rhymes and guitar tabs and a ton more stuff that would take too long to list. But it's basically built for songwriters to collaborate and write.
So what made you decide to start Songcraft?
So I'm an amateur songwriter myself. And about a year and a half ago, I actually left my job to spend more time songwriting. I found myself in this state where I had a bunch of unfinished songs, a bunch of ideas thrown everywhere on paper, on Google Docs, on my notes app, all over the place. I would find myself sort of struggling to finish songs and struggling to find new ideas for songs. And I sort of explored the landscape of apps that existed for songwriters. And it seemed like most of them were really old or just didn't work very well or didn't do what I wanted them to do. And so I sort of, my background is in software development and in building complex web applications like Songcraft. And so I figured, hey, this would be a fun project, a way to give myself and hopefully others the tool that I wanted. So that's how it all happened. And then showed it to some people and they dug it and posted it online, and kind of there's a long iterative process, but that's how it all came to start. It was just something that I really wanted that I felt like was missing.
So what kind of goes into building a platform like this? What are the steps that you kind of went through in the process?
It's been a long process with lots of mistakes. But so basically I come from this place where I know how to build websites that are complicated and cool and do interesting things.
That is so cool.
But that's not the hard part.
Right.
So like the hard part is just getting it right, is building something that other people want to use. So there's a lot of time that goes into actually programming, and I spend a lot of time doing that. But the more important thing that's happened over the past year is I've just had tons and tons and tons of calls with songwriters. So I built the first version of this thing, and I was like, this is what I think I want. And I posted online, and a bunch of people come out of the woodwork and say, hey, this is a cool idea, but that's not at all what I want. And I sort of decided, I was like, oh my goodness, you're right. I've been building for myself. And so that kind of launched this series, this iterative process of build something, test it, talk to people, see what they think, see what they like, see what they need, and then go back and iterate and say, okay. And so there've been multiple times where I basically had to rewrite the whole thing from the ground up because that's what people need and that's what people want. And so it's sort of just this process of try something, talk to people, take it back and just kind of keep going until you get something that people like and people want. So that's been the process. And it's been fun kind of expanding it from a me product to a, hey, what do songwriters as a whole need, you know?
Sure. Yeah, and what's really interesting is like I've spent a bit of time on the website itself and kind of just taking a look at it and trying to get myself familiarized with it. And what I love about it is that it does feel so songwriter focused. It does feel like something that I would think of, but I have no idea how to develop software like that. So it feels like something that a songwriter would come up with. It has so many features that I feel like I would want in a product like that I feel like I've never seen in any other software like this. So that's really cool.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, it's like this, it sort of takes this collaboration between somebody with my background and somebody or lots of somebody's with way more experience on the songwriting thing. So it's been a learning process for me too, sort of learning how everybody else writes music and what everybody else needs. But it's fun to collaborate in that way. And it's fun that Songcraft has become sort of not my project anymore, but the project of the thousands of people using it, and hopefully the many thousands of people more that could benefit from it. So it's kind of always living and growing.
See, and that's super cool too, because when you do talk about the specific differences between how you write and how other people write, there can be a lot of movement there. So what do you feel like you're finding is the difference between the way you and other people write? What do you feel like the similarities are?
Yeah, that's the thing that struck me the most, is just how much variation there is in processes. So as I
Right.
talk to people, one person might write their lyrics on Scratch first, and then maybe they record melody and start figuring out the chord progressions. Other people might start with the chord progressions. So I'm actually the type that most of my music, I start sort of just playing around on my guitar, playing around with some progressions until I find something that kind of vibes with the feeling I'm going for. And then I normally add lyrics on top of it and sort of build the lyrics and the melody together over sort of a flow or a sound that I like. But there have been so many differences in my process and other people I've talked to. One of the major ones is Songcraft wasn't collaborative at all when I started building it, because I was a relatively new songwriter. I didn't collaborate very much. I wasn't very confident in myself.
Right.
And then I started talking to professionals or semi-professional songwriters, and they collaborate constantly. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, like, you need that. So it'd be like, oh, we need like live collaboration. We need organization of our music and like folders and collections, and we need to be able to share. And I was like, oh, okay, like that. Yes, that makes sense. Like that's sort
Right.
of a resounding difference that eventually built into Songcraft, because there are so many people that really want that type of thing. So I would say that's another thing, is as I've written more, I've gotten more collaborative, but that differs so much from person to person as well.
Cool. Yeah. And I think in general, like in the past, what I've done whenever I collaborate is kind of use like a Google Doc and kind of have that back and forth through that sort of platform. But what's cool about Songcraft, particularly just from my point of view, is that I love that it has like places where you can write tabs, for instance. That was the thing where I was like, whoa, you can put tabs in here, you know?
Yeah.
And it also just, it had so many little things that just were not happening in any of these other platforms, which is just way cool. So yeah, good job with that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the
um,
idea.
yeah, of course. So how do you come up with new ideas? I know you mentioned before that it really is like a lot of coming up with something and then testing it and then seeing what happens from there and continuing to remake things. But how do you specifically come up with those original ideas?
Yeah, so I would say initially a lot of the ideas came from my own process, from feeling a pain where I'm saying, hey, gosh, I really hate typing out tabs with hyphens for my guitar, whatever, all of this.
Right.
Like, I really don't like taking out a circle of fifths and figuring out, especially when I had even less experience than I do now, figuring out what chords might sound good here, or trying to find some progression generator, or like trying to dig in all these ideas. So a lot of them come from my own pains.
Yeah.
But then more and more as we've grown, it comes from users. And that's something that's hugely important to me. So when you sign up for Songcraft, you get an email that says like, hey, please reach out and tell us what you want to see. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. And after you've used it for a while, we get another message that says like, it says, hey, quick question, like what's a thing that you wish Songcraft could do? And oftentimes those launch into longer conversations or video calls that I have with users, where I can learn what somebody needs to be a successful songwriter or what they want in their platform. And those things don't just come and then in one ear out the other. Those things, I write them down and they go straight to my backlog. And if I start hearing something a few times, it's going to get put into the product, because I realize that this is not my process, right? This is sort of for everybody out there. So that's a major part of how the decisions get made.
Very cool. So on that note, are there any upcoming changes or kind of edits that you've been kind of thinking about, or anything that we can see from Songcraft in the foreseeable future?
Yeah, we're always adding things. There's a bunch of cool stuff coming up. There are two major ones that I'm really excited about. One is just sort of improved collaboration. So right now you can collaborate in real time like Google Docs, but really soon we're going to be releasing a live chat built in. We'll be putting comments into the app. So it'll really feel like a modern, completely rich collaborative platform. And then the other thing is, we haven't even announced it yet, but we're actually working on a partnership with Holistic Songwriting on YouTube.
Wow, very cool.
And so, so Friedemann has just released these songwriting decks. He did a Kickstarter to raise money and put together basically a card game for songwriters. So we're integrating a digital version of those cards into Songcraft. So it'll be this really cool way to access different exercises and ideas for songwriters right within the app. So you'll be able to pull up ideas for lyrics and chord progressions and themes, and even like real prompts, emails that you might get as as a professional songwriter from a business client. So all these ways to sort of help you grow in your songwriting.
Very cool. So if any of you don't happen to know about Friedeman's channel, it is amazing. He does kind of songwriting analysis. He talks about a lot of really, really cool songwriting focused things. So I will put a link to his channel in the description below. And I guess let's kind of move along to your songwriting. So you mentioned that you do write songs. So tell us a little bit about that. What kind of songs do you like to write? What do you like to write about?
Yeah, so still learning and growing on that front, but I have a ton of fun with it. I don't know how to describe my style. It's, I would say, pretty low key. So I normally play acoustic guitar and I sing. And I tend to keep things relatively light. Sort of happier songs that put me in a good place are sort of my go-to. They're not all like that. I write some more serious stuff. But for the most part, I don't record. I'll play open mics and things like that. So most of my music never really goes beyond acoustic guitar and vocals.
Right.
And I really like it as an outlet and just as a creative process for myself. But yeah, mostly acoustic. Yeah.
Very cool. So how do you envision Songcraft evolving in the future? What's your kind of dream for it? What are you kind of excited about?
There's a ton that I'm excited about. I think there are a bunch of really cool things that we're going to do. One thing that I've learned from talking to so many people who are in this world is that everybody has kind of different needs.
Right.
So we actually have this massive user base of students, people in K-12 and a lot of university students sign up and collaborate. And we even talk to teachers who get their entire class on board so they can collaborate. So I would say one really exciting avenue is education, is music education and songwriting education.
Right.
So that's something we'll definitely be exploring more. So I would say if anybody out there watching has any interest in that or is involved in teaching or music education, please reach out, because we're kind of now starting conversations with people about how we can really serve that space. And then the other kind of far other direction is we have professional songwriters on board.
Right.
And for them, there's a lot of things that go into that process in terms of the management of your digital assets and communication with your label or with your publisher. And I think there are a lot of ways we can serve those people as well, because we already have sort of sharing built in. So ideally, in the long run, Songcraft will be sort of a platform that can serve songwriters in all capacities, from very beginner to professional. So that's sort of the idea. And I think there's just a bunch of exciting stuff to look forward to.
So cool. Thank you so much for coming to the channel. I'm so excited that we got to have this conversation. Leave a comment below if you have any questions for Gabe. I'm sure hopefully he'll kind of stick around and maybe answer some stuff.
Thank you so much, April, for having me on. It's wonderful to talk to you, and I love the stuff that you're creating. So everybody out there, keep watching April's stuff. She is wonderful. And thanks for chatting with me. And definitely feel free to reach out to me, either via the Songcraft site or the comments here, or you can email me directly at gabe@songcraft.io.
I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to leave a like. Let us know in the comments if you have any questions or any comments. And of course, be sure to check out Songcraft. It is a really, really cool platform, and I totally encourage all of you to use it. There is, again, a link in the description. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring that little bell to be notified the next time I post something.